Chapter 17, Juba, the Baghdad Sniper. Deadly Sniper or Insurgent Propaganda? Juba is the name of an alleged insurgent sniper who worked in Baghdad area in Iraq, conducting a string of successful sniper attacks against American forces from the start of the American invasion until the writing of this book. Supposedly, after each of Juba's attacks, security forces found a single bullet casing left behind with a note in Arabic stating, "What has been taken in blood cannot be regained except by blood." Baghdad Sniper. Despite these accounts, some people claim Juba never existed and was really just a fictitious character created by Iraqi insurgents who turned the myth of Juba into an insurgent hero. Regardless if Juba was fact or fiction, in November 2005, the Islamic Army in Iraq released a 15-minute compilation video of Juba's alleged sniper attacks, which was available on several websites. While this propaganda video was meant to instill fear in American forces and raise the morale of the insurgents, it was also revealing of the sniper's tactics. This video shows, from the shooter's perspective, 23 separate attacks. The viewer can see Juba's target for a short time before the shot, during the shot, and usually for a few seconds afterwards. There's only 30 to 45 seconds of film for each attack, so our understanding of Juba comes from what can be gleaned from these various clips. Juba's shooting platform. It appears Juba shot from inside a vehicle, not from a building. First, it is statistically unlikely Juba could gain entrance to an appropriate building in every one of the 23 attacks. Plus, there were no high-angle shots taken from upper-level buildings, and civilian, pedestrian, and cars were visible passing between the camera and the target in every single attack. One can only conclude the attacks were conducted at street level, and shooting from a vehicle would produce the camera angle seen in every attack and would also explain how Juba found a suitable, indeed a perfect, sniping position every time. With a vehicle, Juba could park his mobile hide site in any place, providing a good vantage point. A vehicle would also fit into the city and would be an effective means of urban camouflage. We can guess Juba not only shot from a vehicle, but most likely from a van. The camera views and angles could not have come from the confinement of a trunk of a car, because several times we see the camera panning in surrounding area after the attack. Also, a van fit in all over Iraq, and vans of every model, shape, and color filled Iraqi streets by the thousands. It was equally common for Iraqis to cover the windows of their vans with stickers, window tinting, sunblinds, and curtains to keep out the oppressive sun and prying eyes. This urban camouflage would provide excellent concealment for a sniper sitting in the back of a van. Why did Juba target heavily armed checkpoints? In most of the video clips, Juba attacked an alert checkpoint consisting of half a dozen armed soldiers. These were definitely not considered soft targets, as Juba was not picking off lone, careless soldiers. Quite the contrary, Juba targeted enemy forces when they were alert and prepared. Why? There may be several reasons for this. First, most checkpoints were set in the same place day after day and never moved. For instance, a permanent checkpoint may be placed at a busy intersection, allowing a sniper to take days, weeks, or months to plan the perfect attack. This regularity created a distinct pattern, allowing Juba to analyze his targets, study the surrounding terrain, and develop a tailor-made plan to fit a specific checkpoint at a specific location. Also, Juba's mobile sniper platform allowed him to get into the perfect position no matter where the checkpoint was located. The checkpoint did not have to be located next to a building. It only had to be located in an area where civilian vehicles had access. Since all of the checkpoints in the film were located on or next to roads, Juba's sniper van had ready access to them. Because American and Iraqi forces had hundreds of checkpoints set up all over the country, Juba had many targets to choose from. He could afford to choose a target with the right terrain, the right roads, and the right intersections for a quick getaway. If a particular checkpoint was in a bad location, Juba had other, better choices to select. One sniper or more. While the insurgents would like their enemies to think they developed an unstoppable super sniper, this was more propaganda than reality. The strongest evidence supporting there was no single super sniper was an insurgent sniper in Fallujah who was killed after conducting a string of similar attacks against American forces. This Fallujah sniper, who also filmed his attacks and used similar positioning when making his shots. However, while this sniper died in action and was a celebrated Martyr to the resistance, the attacks continued. In fact, there were several different insurgent sniper films on the market from different groups working in different areas, all filming their attacks and using similar methods. While there were likely several snipers conducting these attacks, in the Juba film, they may have all received training from the same source. One reason to believe this is because the common threads in the filmed attacks. In fact, each and every attack had the exact same modus operandi. It was unlikely several different, unconnected snipers developed this level of disciplined methodology independently. Experts studying Juba theorized these insurgent snipers received detailed instruction from Chechen snipers bloodied and experienced in Grozny. While Chechen snipers have fought in Iraq, this theory is unlikely as there are no recorded instances of Chechen snipers operating from civilian vehicles against the invading Russians. Only the IRA and the DC snipers have been known to fire from the confines of a vehicle. It is quite possible insurgent snipers researching the art of sniping on the internet discovered this urban sniping methodology from open media sources and then began employing these tactics on their own initiative. Just as the insurgents took martyr operations, IED, and car bomb attacks to new heights, they may have improved on the art of sniping in the same manner. Did Juba use a gun-mounted camera? A point of much debate is exactly how the insurgents filmed their attacks. On initial observation, it appears the sniper used a gun-mounted camera. With the majority of the shots, the camera visibly shuttered when the sniper fired a shot, and in one attack, the camera was actually filmed through the sniper rifle scope. However, a gun-mounted camera could not be used in all of the attacks for several reasons. To start, when one sees the footage, we never even get a glimpse of the gun barrel or the aperture the sniper must be firing through. Several times, the camera pans the local area after the shot, which would not be possible if the camera was on the gun. Furthermore, on several occasions, it appeared the camera was not attached to the gun since the gun fired and the camera remained stable and unaffected. On top of this, at other times, the camera was not aligned to the target. The sniper shoots, but the camera does not show a good picture of the shot. If the camera was separate from the weapon, then why did the camera visibly shutter most of the time? Our explanation is the cameraman was co-located with the sniper, with both the cameraman and sniper concealed in the back of a van. If the sniper concealed their muzzle by firing within the van, muzzle blast by firing within the van, the inside of the van absorbed the muzzle blast. If the cameraman was close enough to the muzzle of the weapon, this contained muzzle blast would be enough to affect the camera's stability for a split second. If the physics of this theory is true, then it may look like the camera is gun-mounted when the camera and gun are really just in close proximity to each other. Did Juba use a suppressor? Most of the time, Juba did something to conceal the muzzle flash and blast of his rifle. In many of the attacks, Juba shoots someone who is looking directly at the sniper's position. Even after the sniper fired, the victims never saw the muzzle flash and blast. In fact, the victims often look in a different direction from where the shot came from. One would think the sniper used a suppressor, which made the muzzle flash and blast almost impossible to see. On top of this, many times people in the area of the shootings did not hear the gunshot. Sometimes people looked around after the gunshot, while others kept on walking as if nothing happened. Overall, this presents a strong case the sniper used a suppressor for some of the attacks. On the other hand, one of the attacks was filmed through the sniper rifle scope, and the muzzle flash from the weapon was clearly visible, taking up the entire screen for a split second. And other attacks, even though the Islamic Army in Iraq superimposed its propaganda music over the sound of the video, one still heard the rifle's gunshot. If the sniper used a suppressor in these cases, there would be no muzzle flash like the one seen through the scope, and the gunshot would be not so loud as to be heard over the music. So, how was it the sniper fired an unsuppressed weapon some of the time? The sniper's victims and bystanders never saw the muzzle flash and blast despite looking at the sniper's position, and sometimes the surrounding people failed to hear the gunshot at all. One explanation is the sniper and cameraman used a mobile shooting range. Think of how commercial indoor shooting ranges dampen the sound of their customers' gunshots by using specially designed phone line walls with absorbing the sound. What if this sniper team did the same thing, except they lined the inside of a van with sound-absorbing material, except for a small hole to shoot from and a port to film through? This type of setup would explain a lot of people could not see the muzzle flash and blast of the weapon because the sniper kept the barrel of the gun inside the van and only the bullet traveled outside the small firing hole. Because the van was lined with sound-absorbing materials like mattresses, people did not hear or recognize the gunshot and thus had no idea where the shot came from. Because the cameraman and sniper were sitting next to each other in the back of a padded van, the muzzle blast was constricted to an enclosed place, which rocked the camera for a split second after each shot. In another film version of one of the shootings, the cameraman or sniper is heard saying over and over again in Arabic, Allahu Akbar, or God is great. The speech is very clear and distinct with no background noise. There are no honking car horns. There are no people talking or yelling, despite being in the middle of a very busy city. This could be because the cameraman was in the back of a padded van where everything inside the self-contained environment was clearly heard, likely gunshots and their own voices, while everything outside was silenced. In this situation, one should remember the experience of John Muhammad and Lee Malvo in their killings. These two fired from the trunk of a car without a suppressor in much closer proximity than the Juba sniper, and they were never detected during their shootings. It may be enough Juba fired from within the enclosed space of a vehicle, and the sound of the gunshot then became distorted as it bounced off and broke up in the surrounding urban terrain, preventing anyone from locating them. Juba's technical sniping ability. The video revealed that Juba had an excellent grasp of guerrilla sniping tactics, but was not a consistent shooter or did not understand the limitations of his weapon and the capabilities of his enemies. For example, it was common knowledge all American soldiers, and Iraqi security forces for that matter, wore ceramic body armor plates protecting their chests and back. All one had to do was look at a soldier and they could see they were wearing body armor. The capabilities of this ceramic body armor are widely known, are posted on the internet, and considered public knowledge. American-issued ceramic body armor, like all Level 4 armor, was designed to stop the 7.62mm rifle round, the round used in weapons like the AK-47 assault rifle and Dragunov SVD sniper rifle. Inexplicably, in at least 8 of the attacks, Juba shot the soldiers in their body armor. In some of these attacks, Jubas actually saw the soldiers get up and run away, or simply bend over like they had the wind knocked out of them. Most likely, all the soldiers targeted in these 8 attacks lived, with nothing more than bruising and maybe broken ribs. These incidents beg the question, why would Juba continue to shoot soldiers in the chest when he saw these shots had no effect? Perhaps he was not confident in his shooting ability and was unable to hit a harder target like a head. Or he might have preferred to take the high percentage body shot rather than miss a low percentage headshot. But this analysis does not hold up because in 6 of the attacks, Juba made difficult headshots. It appeared when shooting soldiers in vehicles, Juba took the headshot because that is all he had. When facing dismounted soldiers, he preferred to shoot them in the chest, even though on more than one occasion he had easy headshots available. In 2 of the attacks, it appeared Juba shot his victims in the groin pelvis region. Because of these soldiers were on foot, and it appeared Juba intentionally avoided shooting them in their body armor. In these cases, Juba learned shooting his victims in the body armor was a failed strategy, so he shot where there was no armor. Shooting a person in the groin or pelvic region was still a life-threatening shot because the bullet could hit the femoral arteries and cause fatal wounds to the intestines and lower spine. One report stated Juba intentionally aimed at gaps in the soldier's body armor, at the lower spine, in the ribs, or above the chest in order to avoid the body armor. Juba may not have been an extremely accurate sniper due to his limited experience or his inability to get regular training and practice. In one attack, Juba fired at a group of soldiers and hit one in the lower arm. A trained sniper might wonder how a person could shoot at a range of 150 meters and miss. More importantly, how was it Juba could, at times, make difficult headshots, but then blow relatively easy ones? Juba may simply have been an inconsistent shot who was hot sometimes and cold other times. He may have used open sights as opposed to a scope, although one attack was filmed through a rifle scope, and making a tough shot was more luck than skill, hence the pattern of taking easy chest shots. What is most plausible is the video is a compilation of several different snipers, all with different shooting abilities, different preferences, and different understandings of their enemy. Juba's weapon. Juba probably used a Soviet SVD sniper rifle, which was relatively common in Iraq and the rest of the Middle East. When listening to the recoil of the gunshot in the video, it sounds like a weapon with some sort of buffer recoil spring system, like the semi-automatic SVD, as compared to a bolt-action weapon which sounds differently. The weapon used in the video was of 7.62mm size or smaller, based on the inability to penetrate body armor designed to stop 7.62 rounds. Other analysts have actually seen a quick snapshot of Juba's weapon in the film and determined it was a Tabuk rifle, which is a modified Iraqi version of a Yugoslavian variant of the AK-47. The Tabuk rifle is common in Iraq, and the picture at the beginning of this chapter is one of an insurgent sniper aiming such a weapon. Juba's game plan. Juba was not an opportunist who took chance shots and rolled the dice. He was a professional sniper who developed a specific, detailed methodology for conducting his attacks. Juba's guerrilla organization most likely had dedicated undercover intelligence agents who picked out targets for him. Juba then conducted a reconnaissance of the selected target before his attack, wearing civilian clothing, looking like everyone else. He might have first driven or walked by his targets to observe them. On these reconnaissance missions, he not only collected information on his target, but he determined where he would shoot from. Juba intentionally picked targets in heavy populated areas with high concentrations of cars, people, and buildings. He used this urban clutter to hide in plain sight. He felt more secure the more people were around him and the closer he was to his target. He was so obvious, he easily passed the casual scrutiny of the security forces and civilian bystanders. He was not afraid to attack targets that were heavily armed, alert, or large in number. In fact, Juba flaunted his ability to take his shots undetected, right under the noses of his enemies, even with them looking directly at him and pointing their guns at him. Once Juba found the right place to take the shot, he parked his vehicle there. He ensured other vehicles were around him, so he blended in. He waited for his vehicle to become part of the urban landscape, so it did not look unusual. This meant Juba may have been parked for several hours in order to melt into the background. He stayed inside the vehicle if this looked normal, and he may have left it to conduct further reconnaissance and then came back to it to take the shot. Most likely, the rear of the vehicle faced the target, so it had a smaller signature. The vehicle could not face the target because there was no concealment in the front of the van with a large windshield. The vehicle was probably not broadside to the target either, and there was less room to maneuver a sniper rifle for a shot, plus the vehicle was more noticeable that way. With the rear of the vehicle facing the target, Juba could use the full length of the vehicle to maneuver his weapon and make the shot. After Juba made the shot, he drove away from his target and made his escape. When he could, Juba parked his vehicle at a T intersection where he could take a shot on an exposed target and then drive down a side street and quickly disappear. Juba did not get overly excited after making his shot and might have stayed in the parked vehicle until it was safe to leave the area. He hid his gun in the vehicle, made preparations to leave the area, and may have actually walked away from the vehicle, mixing in with the local crowd to separate himself from the shooting. He might go back to pick up the vehicle later or in the day, or the driver took off without him and picked him up at a nearby location away from the immediate scene of the shooting. Juba's methodology, showing a striking similarity to John Muhammad and Lee Malvo, the DC snipers. They both intentionally flouted the security of their enemies and took great pride in their ability to operate under their very noses. They both wanted to cause terror, to strike fear in their enemies, and to show they could operate with impunity and could not be stopped. Juba essentially took the DC snipers' methodology and modified it to fit the environment in Iraq. The integration of sniping and propaganda. The video compilation of Juba's sniper attacks by the Islamic Army in Iraq was innovative in that it illustrated an integration of sniper attacks with media as part of an organized, pre-planned propaganda campaign. Juba's guerrilla organization understood sniping was more important than just a tool for military attrition. The organization saw the sniper as a means for showing the weakness and vulnerability of their enemy, as well as raising the morale of the guerrilla organization. It did not matter what the reality of the attacks were, and if all the soldiers who got shot in the chest armor walked away. What did matter is it looked like these soldiers were killed, thus giving the guerrillas and their supporters the perception their cause was on the winning side. In this manner, the insurgents took the very tactical act of shooting an enemy soldier and turned it into a strategic operation.